Chris Lee, Blake Lovell here. We are with Southeastern 14. We're here to talk some bracketology through an SEC window. Blake, I have updated my large sheet of stuff, which only a maniac would put together what I have done.
Man.
I think your eyes are crossing as you read this. We're going to go through seeds and where SEC teams stand. Again, through games of last night, which would be, as we're doing this, this would be Tuesday morning, so Monday night's games. I've got the top four seeds in order. I've got Gonzaga, Baylor, Kansas, Auburn. I think people are just now catching on to Baylor as a one seed. And if you look at that string of victories Baylor has had, it's incredible. Maybe the best resume of wins in the country, or pretty close to it. Gonzaga, I think everybody's got as the one seed. Really, it comes down to whether Auburn is still in the one seed discussion. Maybe this is just me looking at it through an SEC lens and seeing how good this team is. I've got Auburn edging Kansas out as the final number one seed for now. You're looking at the resumes side by side. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think there would be a lot of people who would disagree with you on that.
There are. A lot of people have got Arizona ahead of Auburn, but I look at the wins, and this is the lens that I look at these, and you're seeing it. Okay, I'm going best wins, and I've got them in this order. And you can argue a little bit based on home and road, but I kind of line them up in order of the best teams they've beaten. Auburn has beaten Kentucky, won at Alabama, and in fact swept Alabama. Beaten LSU, beaten Murray State, beaten Loyola, and also, for what it's worth, Oklahoma and Florida, if those teams get in the tournament. I think right now Oklahoma are a real long shot, and Florida a bubble team. Arizona has beaten UCLA, won at Illinois, beaten USC, beaten Wyoming, Michigan on a neutral floor. I just think that Auburn's slate of wins is better. Its strength of schedule is tougher. It's 36 in terms of strength of schedule. Arizona is 67. Auburn 25-4. Arizona 25-3. You look at strength of victory according to the computers. Auburn, if you average those, we're using KPI and strength of resume at ESPN. Auburn 4, Arizona 9. The predictive metrics like Arizona better. They average out to put Arizona at 5 and Auburn at 10. Which I guess is where everybody's going, that and the fact that Arizona is going to win the Pac-12. But I just think that the SEC is a much better conference than the Pac-12. To me, Auburn's got better wins. And, yeah, Auburn's lost one more game, but it's also played a tougher schedule.
Yeah, the net, our lovely net.
Our net loves Arizona and does not like Auburn. And that's the problem.
I think that's the issue here. And I think that's why, for a lot of people, they would put Arizona ahead of Auburn right now. And, if we look at let me pull it up here real quick. We know Auburn still has Mississippi State and
South Carolina
left. Arizona's got an interesting one. We're doing this on Tuesday morning. They play at USC tonight. I think that's a tough win. I think there's a good chance they can lose that game, right? So
yeah,
if that
USC
happens,
wins that one, I think Auburn is your four, probably more consensus, or your
if you're an Auburn
fan,
if you're an Auburn fan, you're rooting for USC big time. I think tonight. I mean, again, that's not a bad loss for Arizona, but that would, I think, that's a loss, right? And they remember this is Arizona just coming off a 16-point loss at Colorado, so that's something else to keep in mind too. And there's no way they make up any ground in their final two games because they play Stanford and Cal, so those aren't doing anything for your resume. So, yeah, I think that's the scenario, where maybe people start to flip on that with Auburn and Arizona. But you said it. I mean, Baylor's just, what do you know? Gonzaga and Baylor, the two teams, again, that have, made their way to the top. That's just kind of what we seem to expect now based on you look at what they did last year and all that. But, yeah, so I think Auburn, it's the path to the number one seed is very obvious at this point. It really is just, win these last two games and then it's just, like we said, you're looking at everyone else too. I mean, remember, this is all kind of dependent on, if you look at Kansas's remaining schedule, I think Kansas at TCU, I think that's a tricky one for Kansas maybe. And we'll see, we'll see if I'm right on that. But TCU is a team that I've been pretty impressed with. And I know that they've had some losses here and there, and maybe have not played their best basketball at times. But I still think potential, which they're just coming off that win against Texas Tech at home. That's a tricky one, I think, for Kansas. But they're going to play back to back too. So, and then Kansas still has Texas, right? So the schedule, I think, sets up in Auburn's favor.
It really
right?
doesn't matter what we think because it's going to sort itself out.
Right.
But I think it's a fun exercise to do because this is what everybody's talking about.
No. And I think Auburn has the advantage scheduling wise, meaning they have the best path, at least on paper, to stay on course. Whereas, as we mentioned, Kansas, Arizona, they've still got some tricky games potentially left. Which, I mean, look, Auburn goes on this road to Mississippi State, right? We can say this about Kansas, TCU, Arizona, Mississippi State. We talked about in our last video. I don't think it's going to be easy, but all this is relative to the outcomes. So
yeah, I mean, look, if Auburn loses at Mississippi State, then it's going to be a 2 at this point,
right.
It might be tough to climb out of that. But I mean, still a path there depending on who you beat in the tournament. But okay, I've got the 2 seeds in order. Again, I go Arizona, Kentucky, Duke, Purdue. A lot of people would probably put Auburn as the first number 2. I think that's what Bracket Matrix had this morning. Yeah, these are tough. I think it's hard to slide Kentucky much further down than the second number 2. Duke is an interesting case. Duke did beat Kentucky head-to-head. And if you start, when you're comparing teams, sliding one ahead of the other because of head-to-head, you can get really messy in a hurry. So I try not to do that unless it's just an absolute tiebreak. But I think Kentucky is solid 2 right now. Chance to move up, again, depending on what happens with Auburn and some other teams. But Kentucky has bagged some nice wins, to say the least. Kansas on the road, Tennessee, swept Alabama, LSU, at North Carolina. Not sure what that one's worth. If we got some time, I want to talk about the Tar Heels. And then beat Florida. So pretty good slate of wins. Kentucky is 3 in the predictive computers, 7 in strength of resume computers, and 4 in the net. So Kentucky is not too far from being a 1 here with some things going the Cats' way, Blake.
Yeah, I think Kentucky's certainly got a path to get there because, like you said, you look at the wins. They got a lot of good ones, and I think that with their remaining schedule, if they went out, which is a real possibility, they got Ole Miss and Florida. I think that's where, like, if Kentucky wins the SEC tournament, I mean, it's just at that point. Remember, though, as we always say, it is about what teams do in front of you as well, but I think there is still absolutely a chance that Kentucky can move into that number 1 mix depending on what happens with these other teams. Yeah. But I just, I like Kentucky's resume. The more you kind of look at it and you understand. I mean, we mostly, up until this point, we've just gone off of watching games and how's a team playing. But when you really look at their resume, like it is very impressive. And so yeah, I think Kentucky is in a really good spot right now. And I think that, we'll see kind of how it plays out for them, but I think they absolutely have a path to get there. The dream of 2 number 1 seeds for the SEC, I think is
looking tough
out the window probably at this point.
After the way Baylor's played,
yeah,
because I think Gonzaga's going to get 1. It's going to be, I think it's going to either have to be either Baylor or Kansas. I'm not going to say having a collapse, but not finishing too well for that path to be there.
Right. Let's say
and Arizona too. Yeah.
Let's say Kansas loses a doubleheader to TCU, and then all of a sudden things flip. Perhaps. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's become now a tough challenge. And if you heard us trying to work out SEC title scenarios on the previous one, trying to work out scenarios where to get both Auburn and Kentucky on that number 1 line would be.
I think that's even tougher.
That'd take us a couple days. So. So Kentucky's sitting in a good spot, and they still have, because the computers love them, and as we always say, the computers got to get the love from the computers, and they love Kentucky. So,
okay, the 3 seeds are really tricky. Also, I think there's kind of a consensus in where they are, but ordering them is tough. I've got in this order: Texas Tech, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Villanova. I could argue Tennessee higher. In fact, at one point I had Tennessee on the top 3 seed line. Now, the one issue for Tennessee, again, if you go head-to-head, Texas Tech beat Tennessee. I've also got Tennessee ahead, though, of Villanova, even though Villanova beat Tennessee pretty handily, but that was a long time ago. Texas Tech has got a string of wins that rivals Baylor's because it beat Kansas, it swept Baylor, beat Tennessee on a neutral floor. I think that was a neutral floor. Or no, that was at home, wasn't it? I think that was in Lubbock.
Neutral.
Okay, it was. Okay. That's right. That was I was thinking that was a Big 12 challenge, but it was a tournament.
Madison Square Garden.
Okay.
Yep.
Swept Texas, beat Iowa State on the road, beat TCU, and for what it's worth, beat Oklahoma. So it's like I'm wondering what the committee does with those wins because you look at it on paper, the computers, and I'm using an average of KPI and Strength of Resume, which is ESPN's, and the computers only average Texas Tech's Strength of Resume at 14, which doesn't make sense to me. The computers, the predictive ones, have them at 12 on average. I guess where Tech gets penalized is road record. In fact, that's right where it is because Tech is 3-6 on the road. But if you just look at who it beat, it's really impressive. Tennessee, not really a hole in the resume here. No losses outside of quad 1. Strength of schedule at 3. The computers, the predictive ones, and the strength of resume ones, Tennessee between 6 and 11. So everything here screams, like a floor is a 3 seed, is a low 3 seed. And I think Tennessee's got even an argument, and it all depends on what the committee likes, right? But I think Tennessee could move up into that 2 seed territory. It wouldn't be a reach. Although, boy, you're talking about some teams that have stacked up nice wins. You get in this territory, Texas Tech and Wisconsin have done some work. And Wisconsin's going to be another interesting one because Sager and BPI and Ken Pomeroy don't love them. In fact, they see them as barely a top 25 team. That's going to be very interesting how Wisconsin gets sliced apart because the wins, when you look at them, really impressive, but the computers think it's a little bit of a fluke.
Yeah, and I just want to point this out too. There have been some people that have asked this in the comments or, made their opinion on this. I think Tennessee is not getting a number 1 seed.
No.
I think in any scenario, even if they were to win out.
7 losses is just – how many teams have gotten a 1 with 7 losses?
Let's just play this scenario. Let's say they win out. They're going to have a win over Arkansas in that scenario. Let's say they get in the SEC tournament. They get to play both Auburn and Kentucky, depending on where the top 4 seeds are. All right. Let's say they beat both of them and win the SEC tournament. Maybe in that scenario, you're looking at it and saying, wow, and again, this is all going to be dependent on those other, how many teams you got ahead of them right now.
It's going. I'll tell you what, it's going to take Baylor and Kansas both bowing out early in their tournament. It's going to take Arizona losing tonight and then some more. And it's probably – I worry for Tennessee if it becomes a head-to-head comparison with them and Texas Tech. Does that get held against Tennessee? If it's just putting those two teams on a scale against each other?
The ultimate wild what if, because I'm bringing this up for people who have said it out. Sure, there may be a path for Tennessee to maybe shock everyone and get to a number 1 by the time this thing's over, but that to me involves winning out and beating Auburn and Kentucky again at some point. So – big what if, but that's what we do here. We play the scenarios.
I think a 2 is doable though.
Oh, absolutely. I think a number 2 is certainly in the works for Tennessee, and yes, I think there's an absolute possibility. I think what would be interesting is if you get Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee all at number 2 seeds. I don't know how that. Again, it's all going to be dependent on results the rest of the way. But what if that happens? What if that's kind of a scenario that plays out with that? But yeah, I mean, and Arkansas is another one. We'll talk about them in a second. Arkansas, and I know guys are trying to find the path, but they're not getting to a number 1. But yeah, it's just, those are with Tennessee. I think they're one that their strength of schedule is so good that that's going to play in their favor. We talk about the numbers, the data loves them because they're just kind of a team that they don't have any bad losses, and you have to. We always say sometimes the good wins are good to have, but they don't really have any terrible losses, and that's something that the committee loves is to see that. Okay, you lose, but you lose to tournament teams. All right, that's not bad, So yeah, I think Tennessee's sitting in a very good spot.
Okay, 4 seeds. I've got an order: Providence, Connecticut, Arkansas, UCLA. Now, I think I may be one of the few that's got Arkansas on the 4 line, but nobody's got it.
I don't think they're that far off, though. I think
I think people just hadn't caught up with it yet. I think people still haven't reacted to the weekend. But I mean,
Matrix does have them as the number 3-5 seed now, but they're not in terms of
what I mean.
The average seeding. They're not in term, it does like a number ranking. They're not that far off from UConn as the number 4 seed. So.
Lenardi had them as a 5 or 6 yesterday.
He updated his bracket today, and I will tell you right now that he has them as a number 5 seed, trending up. And I think most people right now, at least on Bracket Matrix, it's close. But yeah, I think the consensus is Arkansas has at least moved ahead of Alabama, which to me makes sense, right, at this point.
Yeah.
So
this weekend did it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that it took a little while for, like you said, the things to catch up there. But yeah, at least I think that to me is the way it should be. Arkansas probably should be ahead of Alabama right now in the seeding. So
yeah, Arkansas. Here's the issue for Arkansas as I see it. Well, there's a couple 5-3 on the road. I mean, that's not bad, but it's not. You've got some teams that have won 8 or 9 on the road, although some of those are in weaker conferences. Strength of schedule 60. I think that holds them back a bit. And Arkansas has got a quad 2 loss and a quad 3 loss. And the wins, Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee, all huge wins, all at home, and a win at LSU, which in a day or two could be paired with a sweep of LSU. But the list of wins, I'm looking at most of the teams above them. Most of these teams have got 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 wins against teams that are going to the NCAA tournament, and that's where Arkansas falls a little short. Like you look at Connecticut, which I've got Connecticut right ahead of them. Connecticut's beaten Auburn, Villanova, Xavier, swept Marquette, Seton Hall. That's 6 right there. Creighton, that's another one. Creighton probably in right now. And VCU, I don't know if VCU's in, but it's probably in the bubble discussion. And that's what I mean. Arkansas has only got wins against 4 teams right now that I think are certain to be in the field. And I think that's where Arkansas's resume suffers a little bit for people wondering.
Well, and here's the deal. We've said it. Arkansas is a different team over the past month and a half, but that you can't ignore what happened from December the 11th to January the 8th, right? Like you can't just throw that out of the resume and say, well, that was the old team. You still have to look at the full body of work, and I think that's what's holding Arkansas back. The losses to Hofstra, to Vanderbilt, to A&M, those kind of things. I think, you know what I mean? Like, I just think that we have to keep that in mind. They're playing as well as anybody, but that's still part of their resume is what happened from December 11th to January 8th. And I'm sure we always say this, like there are things you can't quantify. The committee will take those things into account when you're trying to figure out, okay, where is this team now and where do we see them now? Even though we're basing it on the entire body of work, where are they now versus, let's say that stretch where they do lose 5 of their 6 games at this point. That will be taken into account, and there will be, some sort of value added to that. But it still exists on the resume, and so that is the one thing that, again, I know someone had talked about. Well, is there any path whatsoever to Arkansas getting to a 1? It's not because of that, because it's just all of that. I mean, that's the thing is, like, really, let's think about how remarkable of a run Arkansas could go on here to finish the season.
There's no way you would have said this was happening.
No, but think about what they could do to finish the season. Let's say best case scenario, they could win out the rest of the way, beat LSU and Tennessee.
And then that solves your huge win issue, your number of wins issue. Yeah.
But my thing is, and you're still, let's say Arkansas gets to the SEC championship game or something. At that point, you're still probably going to beat 2 NCAA tournament teams to get there.
Yeah.
And because one of them will be one of the top 4 teams, more than likely. So, I mean, that's the thing is, like, Arkansas could still theoretically add, 4, 5 quality, I mean, just huge wins to their resume. So maybe that's the next question.
Okay, here's the scenario for you. Arkansas, here's what you want. Arkansas gets the 4 seed. Then it plays the winner of 5, and the winner 5 plays the winner of 12 and 13, which gets the 4, which is Arkansas. 5 is probably going to be LSU or Alabama. And if that's the case, that's a chance to beat a tourney team. Right. Then you play the 1 seed if you win that, most likely, which is going to be, another tournament team. And then whatever comes out of the bottom half of the bracket, which I don't think it's going to be, Vandy or Georgia or somebody like that. I think it's going to be another team that you use to pad your resume with. Although at that point, you're so late into Selection Sunday, we've raised the point of how much does it matter, but probably something the committee goes into Sunday with an idea on, right?
Here's what I'm going for now. We're not going to do this on this one, but I want to find a way to get Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arkansas all on the 2 line. Let's get them all just
Oh man.
SEC, stack the twos with the SEC. Can we do that here? Is that a
Okay.
possibility, you think? I don't think it's that it's not going to happen, but I mean all these teams have still the potential to move up, right? Like isn't that where you want to be right now? All four of these teams have the potential. Auburn can still be a 1. Kentucky can still be a 1. Tennessee could probably go as high as a 2. Could Arkansas go as high as a 2?
Okay, here's what you need. You need
Or a
to
3?
get to you need to get Tennessee and Arkansas in the title game with Arkansas winning it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably the best scenario, but you need to have the semis with Auburn and Kentucky in there.
Yeah,
You need to have the top 4 teams in the semis, which may be easier said than done, but I think the way those 4 play, it's not that's your predictable outcome right now. So these 4 teams, I don't want anyone else to get mad at us, but like these 4 teams excite me. Like they are 4 teams that you look at their resumes, they're all heading in the right direction, and I just think that like it's just there's still so much room to get to like some of these. Like you said, Tennessee can still get a 2. I mean, can Arkansas get there? Maybe even if it's a 3. Like still though, I mean, remember this is a team that we just I don't know, man. This is just these top 4 teams are just fascinating to me. So
Yeah. Now, I think one little danger for Arkansas, I mean, it's kind of silly to point out, but like right now, UCLA I've got sitting just 1 spot behind Arkansas in the 4 seeds, but UCLA's got a chance for a big win tonight. UCLA's kind of in that same spot with Arkansas where it's got some really great wins, but not like as many wins against NCAA tournament teams as you want. Strength of schedule is 49 for UCLA, so that's another thing. And then you get into tough territory. I've got Illinois, Ohio State, Alabama, and Houston as the 4 in that order. Houston and Providence are 2 teams I just don't know what to do with. Houston's best win is SMU, and SMU is 50-50 at best to get in the tournament. But the computers love love Houston. I don't know. What do you make of the 5s here?
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting group. I just think these are a lot of teams, but that's why they're 5 seeds, right? Like it's just they've had very,
a 5 seed is typically taken down some pretty good teams, but there's some warts there. There's usually 7 or 8 losses.
And there's usually a chance you're going to get beat in the first round of the tournament.
And then Houston, whatever we do with Houston. So
no, I mean let's obviously we'll run through these. Alabama, I mean, I don't know. We've kind of really talked through Alabama's resume in every video we do at this point. Like, we're just like, oh yeah, remember all these good wins they've got, and don't forget about Alabama, they're still there. And so yeah, I mean that's for anyone that, and I know people are always asking the question about Alabama at this point, but it's. You just gotta, you take their resume for what it is. Yes, they've got just the 2 awful, points on their resume of the Georgia and Missouri type games, but elsewhere,
nobody in the country has a better group of 5 wins than theirs. Gonzaga, Baylor, Tennessee, Arkansas, Houston. Granted, 4 of them were at home. Gonzaga was neutral, and if you want to go 6, throw in LSU, and plus a win over Miami, which is at this point probably going to the tournament, although it's not. I think Miami's got some work to do, but it's crazy. I mean, this is one of the crazier tournament resumes we've seen in I don't know how long.
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing, outside of just the fascination with the top 4 and their potential to go really far. I think Alabama, where they're seated and what their bracket looks like, I also think is going to be very fascinating because, as we said, Alabama could wind up being a 5 or a 4, in a 2's body, you know what I mean? Like they're built like a 2 or something if they play to their best, So I think that is something to certainly keep in mind with Alabama.
Here's what we need to do. We need to get an SEC team of 1, get 3 2s, and then get LSU and LSU and Alabama in those 4 lines.
Just means more.
It just means more.
Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, look, theoretically there is the potential that 1, 2. I mean, could we have Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Alabama, all on the top 4 seed line? Is that
I think you
possible?
could. I don't think Alabama's that far.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it's possible at this point.
I don't think. Okay, I don't think Auburn, and Kentucky and Auburn are not falling out of the top 4 seeds.
Oh, no way.
Tennessee is more than likely. I mean, very much more than likely not falling out.
As long as they don't lose to Georgia, they're in fine shape.
Right. Okay. Alabama could easily get in there.
Yeah.
Although the problem is those 4 seeds have built up a lot of good wins, and so is Alabama. Yeah. Then it becomes,
as I say, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm saying again, that's where you get to the scenarios of the SEC tournament, which we don't know what that's going to look like. So,
yeah.
You guys know by now, I love throwing out the wild what ifs. I want to get you thinking, is this possible?
Okay, let's see. 6s, I've got Texas, St. Mary's, Southern Cal, Michigan State. Then I go to the 7s. I've got LSU as a 7. I think a lot of other people have LSU as a 6. The problem with LSU, again, it's just its lack of wins against teams in the tournament. Taking down Kentucky, taking down Tennessee, beating Wake, which is probably in today. But after that, I don't think that LSU's beaten anybody else that's going to the tournament unless Florida makes it, which we can talk about later too. But but they'll also consider the injury issue, I'm sure. But the computers love LSU, and I don't see LSU falling probably any lower than an 8, even that.
Certainly not if they go 2-0 to finish the season here against Arkansas and Alabama. And if they go 1-1, you're still going to have some value in there somewhere. So I think if they can just finish 1-1, they're going to add another quality win to their resume. So so I think LSU's they're in a pretty good spot right now. And I've said before, I think they're a team, if they wind up at a 7 or something, I don't know. At their best, I wouldn't love to be the 2 seed. I just think that they're a dangerous team at times just because of their defense and the pressure and those kind of things. So we'll see what happens with them. I think a lot of it's going to be dependent on how they finish the season here and can they, get their offense enough to beat teams like Arkansas and Alabama. I think that's going to be the interesting point, but they do have opportunities left, and that's what you want this time of year. You want to avoid the potential bad losses. They're not going to have any bad losses left. I guess depending on who they get in the tournament, but in the regular season, we know that's not going to happen because they do get Arkansas and Alabama. So
let's see. We're on the 8s now. I've got Seton Hall, Iowa, Boise State, Murray State is the 8s. I've got TCU, Xavier, Davidson, and Notre Dame as the 9s. I think I'm high on Davidson than most people. I got San Francisco, Wake Forest, Wyoming, Creighton as the 10s. 11s, Loyola, Chicago, Michigan, San Diego State, and Memphis. 12s, and this is where I'm having a hard time. I've got Miami, Indiana, Rutgers, SMU, and I think that's where we start to run out. And tell me this. If North Carolina is Ole Miss, is anybody putting North Carolina in that resume in the tournament right now? North Carolina's beaten one team that's going to the tournament, and that's iffy, and that's Michigan.
Yeah,
and the Tar Heels have had some opportunities, and when they have had them, they have face-planted.
I've seen some people put North Carolina as high as a 9. I don't know what they're seeing.
I don't get it. I do not get it.
Unless it's just the name. I have no clue what some of these people are seeing with North Carolina. But listen, they're more
1-7 against Quad 1
bracketology than I am. But that to me does not look like a number 9 seed.
And a Quad 4 loss. So
yeah, I mean, we've had this debate before, right? Like we've had this debate over the years. The ACC is, I got nothing against the ACC, but it's just, there's zero doubt that this is just a down year for the ACC. And yeah, I just don't, if they wind up being like a 9 seed or something, like a 10 seed, which I don't know if that's going to happen, but if they beat Duke on Saturday, our opinion changes a little bit.
Yeah, well then they're in, right?
Right. I mean, but still, as of right now, I don't see a lot of meat on the bone there for me to just be wowed by their resume. So
the bubble's getting interesting. I've got Florida a spot behind North Carolina. I'm ranking them 1 to whatever, and I've got Florida at 50, which means I think Florida's close. Again, pair of nice wins over Auburn and Ohio State, the latter on a neutral floor. The computers don't really love Florida. That kind of hurts. But 2 quad, 2 losses, nothing underneath that. Oh, I take that back. 1 quad, 4 loss. Texas Southern.
How
do we forget that?
Home. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
why you're not in right now. Let's just be completely honest. If you win that game, you're in right now. I truly believe that. We said at the time, they're going to look back at this game. If they are in this scenario, they're going to look back and say, how on earth did we lose a game to a team that was 0-8 or 0-9 coming into it by 15 at home? That is, you could get left out of the tournament. I realize there are a lot of other games they've lost and a lot of other opportunities, but that's the one you're going to look back at and say, on what planet did we think that this was going to do anything, other than just possibly ruin our season? And I'm sorry, I know that's blunt, but it's just, you can't do that. Whether it's December, January, November, February, it doesn't matter. You can't lose a game like that.
That's why they're two-face.
Man, it's just like that's got to frustrate you. I mean, we can all play the what if game with that kind of stuff, but if they get left out, that's going to be a big reason why, because they have that just glaring loss. And I know maybe we overvalue it a little more, but the committee's going to see that. That one is much different than all the other zeros you're seeing from the teams around them, right?
Yeah.
So that to me is like, oh goodness, if only. And they only have 2 quad 1 wins.
Who was North Carolina's quad 4 loss?
That would have been was that Pitt? They lost at home to Pitt not long ago. I assumed Pitt was quad 4. Hold on, let me just look it up real quick. I don't want to spread inaccuracies because sometimes I say the wrong thing. Oh yeah, it's Pitt without question. They lost at home to Pitt 2 weeks ago by 9. Pitt is,
how do you do that?
183 in Ken Palm and 11-18 this season. So yeah, I got nothing against Carolina either, but I don't think they're a number 9 seed.
Mississippi State, I know they're nowhere near the bubble, but let me throw this at you. State beats Auburn this week. All of a sudden, State's got wins over Arkansas, Alabama, and Auburn. State is right now in the strength of resume computers averaging a 62, which is not, it's low. I mean, that shoots up into the 50s at the least. I don't know, maybe the 40s. The predictive computers like State. BPI's got them 30. I don't care for BPI, to be honest. I don't know what that computer has really got some outliers this year compared to the rest. But it matters apparently for selection purposes. Ken Pomeroy's got State at 43. Sagern's got State at 41. So the predictive computers feel like State's a tournament caliber team. I don't know. To me, that gets really interesting if they beat Auburn, because then you go into Tampa with the chance to get yourself there, I think.
I 100%, and I may not have said that in the last video we did, but like, if they beat Auburn, they are going to have a chance to get in. I just think they'll need more work to do, like you said. And if you want to compare Mississippi State to Florida, which I've seen some people do, Florida's got that quad 4 loss. Mississippi State doesn't have one of those. But Mississippi State has 2 quad 3 losses as
State's
of now.
Also 1-8 on the road, where Florida's 3-6.
And they both have the same number of quad 1 wins. So if Mississippi State beat Auburn, they'd have 1 extra there over Florida. Florida's got 4 quad 2. Mississippi State's got 2. But yeah, the 1-8 on the road, that is another glaring thing. Their strength of schedules are virtually identical to this point. Mississippi State 46-48 for Florida. So yeah, I think beating Auburn, we return to that discussion. If they beat Auburn, if they don't, then I think you gotta.
Well, then winning at A&M becomes big.
Well, yeah, I told you, man. Would I be shocked? Would any of us? Was there any reason to be surprised if they were to beat Auburn at home and then lose on the road? A team that's 1-8 on the road this season.
Yeah, a
lot has to happen before we get into that discussion.
But then they probably slide the last 4 in, I bet.
If they beat Texas A&M too, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd say in that scenario, if they win both of them, then I think they're much closer. But I wouldn't be shocked if they beat Auburn and lost to A&M on the road. But I picked Auburn to beat them. Spoiler alert if you didn't watch the previous video. But yeah, we'll see. But I think I just don't trust Mississippi State to get there. You know, that's my problem right now. Is maybe I'm wrong about that, but this has been a hard team to
No,
trust.
I'm with you, but it's possibilities. Florida's got Vandy, which I think right now is a quad 1 win if Florida beats Vandy on Tuesday night. No, that may knock Vanderbilt out of quad 1. So maybe it's a quad 2 win, but it is a road win. And then they've got what, Kentucky?
Yeah, home against Kentucky.
Yeah, so I mean there's your chance. How about that? What if we left what if this time next week you've got 2 teams that have played their way into the field and all of a sudden we've got 8?
Maybe.
You're just,
I'm not.
You're just not. You're not having it with either of these
guys.
teams.
Like if I don't even know what to say. I know there are some Florida Mississippi State fans that I just think I'm just anti-Florida Mississippi. I'm not. Like I watch these games and I tell you what I see, and right now I just don't love either one of them, and I don't trust them. Like that's the problem. It's like I've seen this play out before. Like maybe I'm going to be wrong, and that would not be the first time. But I hope they both get in. Everyone, I mean, goodness, absolutely.
Would love to cover 8 teams in the tournament.
Yes.
That would be a lot of fun.
Give us 2 more. I'm all for it. I hope they do both play their way into it. So, yeah, if Auburn and who else? Kentucky want to do the right thing here. I mean, come on. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think we're going to have anybody throwing any losses in this.
Well, then we can't have our scenario of all 2 seeds.
Right.
Well, maybe we could actually. Maybe we could.
I'd rather have 8 teams in and let everybody just kind of be spread out on the seed line versus worried about my all number
1,
2
2. Does it matter much?
It doesn't matter. We'll take any of them. But no, I mean that's what I just.
They've fallen out of Blake's trust tree. I mean, and once you fall out of Blake's trust tree, what do you have to come back with?
LSU got back on the trust tree.
Yeah, that's true. But when LSU fell out of its trust tree, it screwed up it screwed up the knee of its point guard, and that's what happened. The knee got well, and they climbed back into the tree.
They're climbing back into the tree. Florida, Mississippi State. I read off their resumes. They are what they are. I would be absolutely fine with seeing both of them in the tournament. Don't get me wrong. Yes, 8 teams. Let's do it. But if you had to ask me right now, how about let's play that game? If you had to ask me right now, give me a percentage that both teams get in.
Oh boy.
Low, right? It can't be very high.
10.
I think maybe
15,
lower than I was
20.
going to go. I was going to say I think 15 or so. I'd go 15 maybe.
Okay, I'll go 15.
Chance that one gets in, I think, is over 50%. I truly think that Florida may work their way into this thing, even though I don't trust them. I think there's a potential. So maybe I may go 51% that one of them gets in. Chance that neither gets in, I guess I got to go what? I don't know, 40 something. We say all this right now. Look, all this is going to change based on if Florida loses at Vanderbilt. Adios. If Mississippi State beats Auburn, then I think things get interesting, right? Or let me ask you this: if Florida loses at Vanderbilt and they beat Kentucky, what's the scenario? Like, what does that look like? You think?
Boy. Well,
how do you compare that?
I think big wins matter. I think big wins get remembered more than. I mean, and look again, as I said, look. Okay, here's the thing: if Florida loses to Vandy, Vandy's probably going to stay in quad 1 for the time being.
That is a good point.
So it's not a bad loss.
Not adios.
Maybe Vandy doesn't matter if you beat Kentucky. I mean, it pads your resume, but
that's. Well, yeah. There you go. I'm officially retracting the adios on Florida. They are still in.
Sometimes the gator pops up and he gets you.
Well, We'll see what happens. So what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Do you think Florida and Mississippi State, either one get in? Do you think neither get in, both get in? I say all this too because you guys have no idea how bad. I just want the SEC tournament bracket. Then I can start plotting the path for some of these teams. But until we get that bracket, we are playing so many what ifs that Florida could have the worst SEC tournament draw ever.
I'm sitting here with my bracket.
Oh yeah, and it's ready.
You can notice there's only one team written in there because Georgia is the only place. Well, we know Georgia's going into 14, and we don't know anything else.
Exactly. So that's what I mean. Like when I say Florida, Mississippi State, I need to see what their path is before I'm going to get a little too giddy about whether they get in. But they both have huge opportunities this week. Kentucky for Florida, Auburn for Mississippi State. If they can win those games, then we're having a discussion.
Okay, Selection Sunday comes, and we reserve our right to change this. I think you get one of either Auburn or Kentucky as a 1.
Oh, boy.
Probably 1, but not both. I'm going to say the league gets a 1 and a 2 and a 3, although Tennessee could move up. Right now we've got the league with a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4.
I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are all. There's an SEC team.
Yeah, well, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then LSU we've barely got as a 7. And a lot of people have LSU as a 6, where we've got them a 7.
Boy, if LSU dropped to an 8,
ooh,
I would love that for a 1 seed. Just going to be honest with you.
Who's the 1 seed LSU could take out?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I wouldn't say I'd be picking them against any of them, but
be the most Kansas
Arizona
thing ever to lose to. Or Arizona.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see, but I think it's. I don't know. We'll see. I think the interesting discussion I want to have before we get into it. And someone asked us this, I think. And this is a little variation of it, but like to rank the SEC teams, who are you most confident in going into the tournament? I think that'll be an interesting exercise.
Ooh, yeah.
Because I think we're going to have different answers potentially. So that will be fun to kind of think about too. And yeah, so we'll see. There's a lot. We just spent 30 minutes, 40 minutes recording this. Whoever wins on Tuesday night, like those kind of things are just gonna. This could all be out the window if Georgia pulls off the miraculous number 2 win in SEC play.
Yeah, don't hold your
Tennessee
breath.
And I'm not.
Okay, we said what are the odds the league gets both State and Florida in? What are the odds that the league gets one of them in?
I think it's pretty high. I'm not gonna say it was not 75% or anything, but I think there's a chance one
40?
of them plays their way in. Yeah, I think I said 50 earlier. I think that's too high. 40 something probably, maybe. Yeah.
Who do you trust more to get there?
Florida.
Yeah. This is where I'd love to see where the bracket lines up.
Yeah.
Somebody's fate may just be undone by the bracket matchups in the league tournament.
Right, and that's what I mean. Because there is still because remember, let's think about this. It's not just as simple as, the NCAA tournament teams are going to be seeded the highest in the SEC tournament. No, because Florida, Mississippi State, South Carolina, even A&M is still right there with a chance to move into one of those higher seeds, right? So there's no guarantee that, yes, even if the teams Auburn, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU, even if they are the top seeds, but there's also a scenario where either Alabama or LSU could slide back, and then you have some of those other teams slide up, and it's just then your matchups are uh-oh, if we lose, yikes, versus if we win, big win. But if we also win, it does nothing for our resume, and now we have to add on another win somewhere. So we always say that, and that's what's going to come down to for Florida, Mississippi State. They need the best possible draw, and by that I mean the hardest possible draw you can get, because you have to beef up your resume. So they're not playing for wins; they're playing for quality wins, and that's what they need come tournament time.
Florida 3-1 on neutral floors, and State is 2-2. For whatever that's worth.
And all of this could be irrelevant if both lose out. What's your percentage on that?
Florida, just get in your time machine and go beat Texas Southern back in November, and then we're not even. How
Listen,
do you lose to Texas Southern?
It's not like either one of them have an easy schedule left. Florida at Vanderbilt, we've said Vanderbilt's played better. That's a pick'em game. Right now we're talking, That's a pick'em. and then Kentucky at home. Kentucky's going to be the favorite in that. I'm sorry. And then for Mississippi State, Auburn at home. They're going to be the underdog, although they could absolutely win that game. On the road at A&M, I think that's going to be difficult. So we're talking about these two teams, and I still think there's a percentage chance that both of them could go 0-2, and then they're not even. Then it's you got to win the whole tournament to get in. So yeah, man, it's interesting for those two.
Okay, I'm gonna give you one more. I'm gonna really put you on the spot. Better odds as we sit here on Tuesday morning. Florida makes the NCAA tournament. Mississippi State makes the NCAA tournament, or the Major League Baseball season starts on time.
Florida makes the NCAA tournament.
Oh, as a baseball fan, I'm not liking that.
Much better odds.
Wow.
Maybe Mississippi State number 2 in that power ranking there. Baseball 3.
Rob Manfred is not in our tree of trust.
Rob Manfred is not doing well. The net doesn't love him either, and the net loves everyone.
Yeah. All right. Parting thoughts.
Nope. We will have our whatever's up next. I lose track of what even we're recording next at this point. We'll have our reaction videos to Tuesday night's games. I think will be next up on the basketball front, and and then it's going to get interesting.
Let us seriously hit the subscribe button. Let us know if you liked this, what you'd like to see us do if we do some more bracket videos, which I'm pretty confident we will be doing. Maybe might even take questions for those. Yeah,
yes,
we'll do a
questions
mailbag.
Questions is what we want. So we'll put a call for that in one of our whenever we decide to do it next, which will probably be before Saturday's games.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll put that up, or actually, you know what we could do? Our community section.
Oh,
yeah, we'll put that up in a post in our community section. We'll let you guys submit questions, and we'll do that for the next bracketology. How about that?
I say we do another bracketology either on Thursday or probably Friday.
Yeah, I was gonna say going into Saturday's games.
Yeah,
that's what we'll do, and we'll put that up in a post. But we'll let you know in the video leading up to that, and of course you'll see it in your feed. So yeah, I know sometimes it's us rambling, but remember, we are like just thinking off of our head here. We're trying. There's so many different wild cards in effect when it comes to like this stuff, especially like the bracketology, and we're thinking off the top of our head here, and it just we try to give you every scenario we can think of, because there's so many different ones that can play out. Even if the answer does seem simple, we try to not leave any stone unturned here on the possibilities. So,
well, could we have done this more polished ahead of time and had our pat answers and compared our discussion points? Yes, we could have. To me, it's more interesting when you can hear our thought process.
We don't script things around here.
We really don't. I mean,
unscripted.
It is, and I think to me it's more interesting that way. I mean, there are times where you say, well, let's talk about this and let's talk about that, but most of the time, Blake and I seriously do this going, okay, we're gonna start recording these at 9 a.m, and we know the other one has watched games and paid attention. There may be an occasional, hey, what order do we want to go in here, or what did I miss late last night that I might need to know? But we do our homework up here, and then we come to the show. I think to me, there's value in letting people hear about how we arrive at our thoughts, and maybe there is, maybe there's not. But
well, it's all good. Yeah.
All right.
I thought I had a good comment. I just don't. I'm out of goodness for the comments.
You're out of goodness.
I have no more hot takes to deliver in this video.
All right. Well, we're done with our hot takes for today, and we'll see you again on Wednesday.